It's not all roses. The end result will be amazing. We have faith that God's going to push us through. We're going to make money doing it. But I want to make sure everybody's clear that you have to make sure you buy correctly. You have to make sure that you save correctly so that when things do happen, you're prepared.
Hey there, this is Patrice Washington from patricewashington.com, where we chase purpose, not money. Welcome back to another episode of Redefining Wealth. This is officially episode 101. I am still in awe that we've made it 100 episodes. If you're an OG listener or purpose chaser, I owe that to you. Thank you so much for your continued support week after week, for your binge listening. It's funny, although we have over 800,000 downloads, we have, I think, well over like 1.2 million plays because so many of you listen to the same episodes over and over and over again. And if you've been binging, then I know you probably heard last summer an episode I did about the blessing of downsizing with my husband. And that episode was exactly a year ago. So I thought it would be really cool to give you an update because at that time we were in the midst of the downsize, figuring it out. And I knew that there was something special there. And my heart for this community has always been that I not just talk to you from some type of mountaintop experience, but that we're on a journey together. We're doing this together. And so it was real time when I was sharing the struggles of going through a downsize, even though we knew there was good in it. And so many of you reached out back then and continue to reach out every time, someone binges and hears it. I get a DM or I get a message saying, man, this is where I am. This is where I'm going through. So I thought it would be cool to do an update. So first, let me say, if you are brand new to Redefining Wealth, a big, big welcome hug to you. Here's what you should know about us. This is a community that believes that wealth is so much more than just money and material possessions. Money is just one small part. The truth is, wealth is all about well-being. And so we talk about well-being from several different angles. We talk about wealth from several different angles with the hope that as you find fulfillment in all of these areas of life, it helps you avoid the traps and the pitfalls that people fall into with their money. Because it's never just the paper. It's not the bank account balance. It's you. And there's something going on at the root and we have to find it and we have to pluck it up and plant something new. And so that's what Redefining Wealth does for so many people all over the globe every single day. And so before I bring my husband on to help me with this, I want to just kind of give you a summary of what we talked about last time if you hadn't heard that episode. And so the main thing was that we were in the midst of a downsize. So we went from a home in Southern California that was over 6,000 square feet. And we looked up and recognized at one point that there were so many things that we wanted to do personally and professionally. And that between just my husband and I and my daughter, when you really think about a home that size, we were not occupying not even half of it. We found ourselves all the time cuddling and snuggling up on the same sectional, going to the same rooms, using the same bathrooms. And there was so much that we were paying to clean and to keep up and to maintain. And it just seemed like such a waste when we knew that there were other things that we were being called to do. And so we went through a voluntary downsize, and our goal was to cut our expenses by 60% and then reinvest that money into things that mattered to us. And there were so many lessons that we got in the midst of it, because although we knew it was the right thing to do logically, we didn't realize until we started to move into our apartment, which was a third of the size. We knew we were committing to even do that for a year. But once it came down to actually packing up and moving, we were all three of us were feeling a lot of different things emotionally and physically in our bodies. And my husband ended up giving me this word one night. He's like, babe, this is more than decluttering. We're detoxing. And that was a light bulb. Wait a minute, we're detoxing. And he talked about how detoxing can be so uncomfortable. but you stick with it because there's a why, right? There's a goal at the end, but when you're in the midst of it, it doesn't feel good. It can be painful. It can be uncomfortable. And so we talked about how that was a season of pruning and eliminating dead things, removing the things from you that no longer serve you, and how pruning, there's a reason, there's a purpose, there's a process to it, right? Trimming and cutting back the dead things, but there is a purpose, and the purpose is to help you grow and help you grow stronger. And so that's what we did. We went through this kind of voluntary pruning, and the last 12 months have been painful in the pruning process, but also so purposeful. And now we truly feel like we're at a place of peace. So I shared with you the other day that I was in an empty room. I was living out of hotels, first of all, so I wasn't too happy with the quality of the podcast recordings. But as I teach my students in Purpose to Platform, look, progress beats perfection. So I wasn't going to just, abandon the podcast for a month while my life was in transition. I just did the best that I could, but I was sharing that now that I made it back to my little setup, that the first time I recorded in this house, it was empty. So the echo was real. But I've officially moved cross country from Pasadena, California, out to Atlanta, Georgia, back to Atlanta, Georgia, where I've lived before. And there has been so much that took place in the last 12 months. So before I bring Gerald up to kind of help me talk about the process and the lessons learned, here's what happened when we made the decision to downsize in order to maximize our lives personally and professionally. Now, what's happened in kind of our family business is that when we stopped paying all that money for just the three of us to live, we were able to shift our resources and invest in purchasing 2 apartment buildings, a 20 unit and a 27 unit here in Georgia. We started a transportation company and bought our first 18-wheeler. Whew, lots of lessons in that. If you own any trucks, you know what I'm talking about. We'll get into that. We bought our home in a wonderful neighborhood. We've had such great response from the neighbors and really met amazing people. We're 4 minutes away from our new church, 9 minutes away from Reagan's new school. 8 minutes away from the gym. We literally could not have chosen a better place. Shout out to Egypt Sherrod, who actually was our realtor in Atlanta. And so funny, this conversation started during my episode with Egypt Sherrod. And it was about simplicity breeds success, I believe, or simplicity drives success. And Egypt Sherrod, who you may know from HGTV, she's done a lot in just the home ownership space in general and renovation. And Egypt started that conversation. We were talking about simplifying. And I was telling her during that episode, October 2017, we were thinking about downsizing. And then fast forward to the summer of 2018, we did the downsize. And now fast forward to the summer of 2019, Egypt was actually our realtor. So I just love that full circle. And she was so professional. If you've ever seen Egypt on television, on HGTV, and she does property virgins, so first-time home buyers. We're not first-time home buyers, but every time she called to give us an update, we felt like we were on the show. Because Egypt is so professional, but that TV voice is not TV voice. That is truly her voice. And she would just crack me up. But shout out to Egypt. She's incredible. If you're in the Atlanta area, she could be your girl. She's definitely the girl. She was outstanding. I wish I could go into that more. But anyway, and we brought on new team members for my business. I also was able to launch Mastery and Momentum, which is now such a huge part of my business. It's a 12-month holistic mastermind for women. I launched Purpose to Platform, which is a 12-week, essentially business accelerator. And I launched the Purpose Chasers community. We're getting near to the 1 million download mark. Gerald finished his book, Don't Just Start a Business, Build an Empire. There has been so much, and that's just the high level stuff. There have been so many things that happen. And we truly believe that those things could not have been birthed if we were allowing ourselves to hold on to dead weight. If we kept allowing ourselves to hold on to things that look good from the outside, that look good to other people, but ignoring what felt right in our own spirit, what felt right in our bones, what we knew we were being called to do, then we would not be in this place of peace. We say every day, it's crazy, but we say it. At least one of us will say it. Man, this is so peaceful. This feels so good. But let me tell you, from my episode, Greatness Requires You to Expect Resistance, that the road to get here was not easy. Every transaction and everything I just said we launched did not come effortlessly. It did not come with the peace that you might hope or expect. It came with work. There was definitely some painful moments. There were definitely some things that Gerald and I will talk about that were just not comfortable. And so I wanted to share that, though, in real time, because, again, you don't always hear the backstory. You don't always hear the rationale, and you don't always hear the bad and the ugly. We love to talk about the good, but not the bad and the ugly. So, yes, a year later, we're in a good place, but I want to share with you the lessons, the bad, the good, the ugly that came with the blessing of downsizing. So, without further ado, and if you heard that episode, he doesn't know how to behave, but so get ready. But without further ado, here's my husband, my honey, my best friend. Here's Gerald to help us talk about the blessing of downsizing. Okay, last time you guys asked me why his part was not that long.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
It was not 3 minutes. It was longer than 3 minutes because this is what he did. He made me laugh the entire time, and I was having a very serious conversation about the blessing of downsizing. So I invited Gerald back to give an update on the blessing of downsizing and what we learned from that point, which was July 2018 when we recorded that episode and put it out there. Now it's July 2019, and a lot has happened in 12 months. So I've given high level about the things that we've accomplished. Okay. So, the apartment building, starting the transportation company, completing your book, launching Mastery and Momentum Mastermind and Purpose to Platform, and all the good stuff, bought our home that we're now settling into and all that stuff. So a lot of good things have happened. But like we said last year, in order to maximize, you will have to downsize. And that doesn't always feel good. And so while we could talk about all the great things that happen, I think we would do a disservice to not share just some of the journey because it wasn't all roses.
Correct.
So I would love to just start with, what has this last 12 months been like for you? Going from the house to moving into the apartment for a year and just everything in between.
For me this year has been a learning process, and a learning process that didn't require books, because these experiences, these situations and circumstances and unforeseen scenarios have taught me more than I think any book could have taught me. Mm. And I pray that these lessons become a full college degree for my daughter.
Wow.
So that I can do what we've talked about and create a journal alongside, have conversations so that what I've went through now becomes an obstacle they don't have to face. Mm-hmm. So the conversations and for this year for me, we started this year with the word release.
Yeah.
And without even knowing that, a lot of releasing happened. I probably took about 365 pill number 6s and began to release things and people that I didn't foresee. Mm-hmm. Relationships and conversations and material things that I didn't consider as extra or too much or waste, that hurt the most to let it go. But what I am a witness of now is that after letting it go, I'm in such a great peace, such a great solitude, and able to establish and build the amazing future we have on that.
Yeah. Talk about like the process of releasing those. So you said, for those of you who don't realize this, the first episode, Gerald talked about pill number 6, and he talked about, we weren't just decluttering, we were also detoxing. Yeah. And that's a part of why it felt so painful at times. And for the detox that we used to take, shout out to D Herbs, pill number 6 was the one. Like, it was a full body cleanse, but pill number 6 was, you know what I'm saying, the one that really made you go to the bathroom and do everything. And so this year has been a lot of pill number 6s. I think people would love to know, though. So if you make the decision to simplify, if you make the decision, which last year our word was simplicity, and then we ended up not even realizing that we were going into that season, at an accelerated pace, but we did. And so then let's say you choose to release and then it's painful. Like, how do you really get through that process?
The short answer that I want to say is through faith, right? But the long and rough answer is that faith is not enough. It is the thing that we stand on. But I want to be the first one to say that in those hard times, that faith becomes very weak. When you go from 7,000 square foot house to our apartment, to a hotel room for 30 days, to moving into a home, and all the trials and tribulations that happen between that, and people taking advantage of you from our movers, and you see these up and down conversations that happen, and you want to stand on your faith, but we had to lean on each other. Yeah, because as much as I want to lean on God, I'm the first one to say that I need somebody physical that I can talk to, communicate with, that can understand. And you were there for me. We were able to look at each other, buckle down, and say, "Okay, this is just a season,"
or "This is a distraction." I found us saying that a lot, because that episode I did about greatness requires you to expect resistance, and now that we're here in this place, I understand why there was so much resistance. I knew to kind of expect some, but to some of what Gerald alluded to, so there's a lot that happened. So we got out of our apartment at the end of our lease, right? But there was still, and we bought our home, but there was still 30 days where Reagan needed to finish school. And so we stayed in a hotel, and we were like, I was traveling a lot, so really it wouldn't always be all 3 of us, but we stayed in like this kind of apartment style hotel, not that far away from her school, but further away than we were used to being. And man, does that close in on you?
You find out how much you love each other real quick.
Man, does that close in on you? We would be standing in the same place and saying, "Get out of my bedroom." And, Reagan would be like, "I'm in the living room. Like, I'm not bothering you, right?" But like literally be a foot away. Yeah, we learned a lot in that season. But then moving into dealing with these movers, let me tell you guys, I literally almost gave up this whole Money Maven thing. And I was considering being like America's moving advocate, because the way these movers took advantage of us, literally, by the time it was all said and done, we paid 3 times the amount that was quoted to us, when we were very clear and meticulous about everything that should be included in our move.
And they do it when they have your stuff. So now you already picked my things up.
Right.
You have my things as your storage, and now you want to up your fee and up the numbers. And that wasn't what we agreed upon, but you have my things. And now I'm headed across country, and my things are in California, and you can think you can do me any kind of way. But again, at a later date, I will become Gangster Gerald, and we'll figure that part out. Because I'm still low hood. My wife's not.
I'll send a very thorough email.
Hell no, I'm going up there.
This is why he gets censored. So, yeah, there was so much even in that process. And we say it and we laugh now, but my heart really hurt as I started to really do more research, because I hadn't really faced this before. And because our things were literally being held hostage, it felt like. Yeah. I started to research and realized how many people lose their belongings at the hands of these just awful people, and I know all companies are not the same, but there are a lot of, folks that are running around out there with moving companies that are completely going unchecked. and they are taking advantage of people. And I saw story after story where someone had lost all their family possessions and, their heirlooms and different things because someone quoted them one number. And then once they got their stuff, double, triple, quadruple the number, and then held folks' stuff hostage and then ended up selling it out of a storage unit. And it's just really not cool. So, you talk about, and I think that's why we have to share, right? Because people feel like it's just them. No, it happened to us. We paid 3 times more than we should have for our move, or more than was quoted. And what a process. And then by the time our things got here, it was a serious situation.
Well, and on top of that, we have a trucking company and drivers are essential to our trucking business.
Oh.
And one of our drivers turned out to be an idiot.
A charlatan.
And so now you have a truck payment, an insurance payment, and a trailer payment, and taxes and fees on a separate business that now start to weigh into the finances of a move, and it start to weigh into my wife's business. And, those things start to trickle down. It's like, man, we're fortunate that we learned to save, but I'm watching my savings account just dwindle. And I'm like, wait a minute, God. This is where the faith gets trying because I'm doing the right thing. I interview, we hired, we treat people well, and people are still people.
Yeah.
And it affects you and your outcome on life because all men aren't created equal because some are idiots. Just had to say that again. But as it started to happen, you start to realize, okay, wait a minute. I have these apartment complexes and these workers don't want to come to work on time. And, so, we talk about all the amazing things that we have these skill sets to push through and we make strong investments and push things forward in all of our ventures. But I want to make sure that we're the first ones to be honest with you too. It's not all roses. The end result will be amazing. We have faith that God's going to push us through and we're going to make money doing it. But I want to make sure everybody's clear that you have to make sure you buy correctly. You have to make sure that you save correctly so that when things do happen, you're prepared. And fortunate for us, we aren't like a lot of the stories my wife read about the moving companies. We're fortunate that we had a little extra to be able to put it away and do what we have to do. But those families that don't, man.
Yeah, it makes you feel for them. To your point, though, it is really frustrating when you feel like you are being obedient. So nothing that we did we not pray about, plan about, talk about first? It wasn't all like, I'm going to jump up and do X, Y, or Z. They were a bit more thought out, I feel like. Well, some of it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to just do this. There was definitely parts of this that were very spirit led, let's say, or even ego driven.
I 100% agree with that.
But I still feel like there was a level of obedience that came into play for several pieces of it on who to hire, on, like you said, setting up systems or treating people fairly, treating people the right way, or what we deem to be the right way. We try to be fair and still not getting the end result. And I think or the result that you wanted. And had we not done the downsize, this whole year could have killed us. Because the downsize allowed us to cut our expenses by 60%, which gave us the additional cash to float things during these seasons where people were being people, right? So now that we're in this space and we bought the lovely home and, there's all these great things that are kind of back on the horizon and building up, you realize, at least that's what I'm starting to see just having this conversation, that the obedience to downsize happened on the front end in preparation for what would happen in the middle.
And that's exactly where faith comes in, is that when you continue to do the work and stay focused on that, even in the hard times, you realize that God is preparing you for what you don't know is coming. So to your point, the obedience of shifting our finances and downsizing by 60%, we had no idea. We knew it was the right thing to do based on principles and things of that nature, but had no idea the impact it would have later on down the road.
Yeah, we thought it was just, okay, so it allows us to buy this or start this business or save up to put a significant down payment down, or we thought it was that. We didn't realize that it was going to be, no, you're going to have to carry some things in the midst of, the schedule to get the apartment buildings rehabbed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had the right heart. Right. And you had the right idea that you know, but along the way, you're going to meet folks that don't necessarily. And so had we not downsized and still been trying to like hold on to what we felt like people's perception, you know, of us should be. I'm the money maven. You're the empire builder. So at all times, do we need to have all the cars and the big house and this and that? And I used to always tell people before that if you care too much about what people think about you or what you have or whatever, you'll always be broke. And I could see in this season, if we cared more about what people's perception was of our downsize or our even thought process around downsizing, and we would have held on to things longer than we needed to, it would have killed us.
And I want you to stay right there for a second, because that was so much of my life for so long, depending on the image that I could portray, the conversation that could be had. I love nice things, and we've acquired them, and it's amazing. However, the reason why you buy them, the reason why you stay in certain situations, the reason why you keep certain people around. Mm-hmm. Listen to a sermon a week ago, and the example was, if you're very, very thirsty, and I put a glass of water on the table and I dropped some poison in it, just 2 drops, and you're extremely thirsty, would you still drink it? No matter how thirsty you are, would you still drink it? No, you wouldn't, because it's poison. But we keep things in our lives, or people in our lives, or situations in our lives that are poison. Now, I get it, we're thirsty, but it's going to kill you, to your point. Mm-hmm. That glass of water will kill you. These people in your lives that are poison, they're killing you. Your attachment to things and stuff because of your impression of someone else's impression will kill you. And here's the truth. My wife told me this a long time ago. Who gives a damn, one? And two, the people really probably don't even care. Mm-hmm. Right? Most people. Yeah. You know, and you're doing it because of your impression of their impression, which is 9 times out of 10, not reality.
Right. And the thing is, if they do care, then they're not genuine people.
There you go.
They're not even genuine people. Like, we just met some folks recently. We moved into a new neighborhood, of course, and we met some folks recently. And I said hello to a woman, and the first thing that she said to me was, "What do you do?"
Mm-hmm. Not hi, back.
She said, "What do you do?" And I was stunned. So I said, "How do I do?" Like, how am I?
Right.
Because I was stunned that would even be how someone would start a conversation. And to me, that instantly said that, you know, she only really cares about, obviously, what I do or how I got into this neighborhood. Right. Or, you know, she's trying to determine if I'm going to be worthy enough based on what I do. Mm-hmm. And I don't even want to be in relationship with anyone like that. So if people are only going to stick around because they can be seen with you because you drive a certain car, or they stick around because they think it's cool to say, "Oh, I was hanging at so-and-so's house and they live over in this neighborhood," or they think that every time you go out, you're going to get the bill, or I got the door charge, or any of these things. Like, I don't want to be in relationship with someone like that. That's not give and receive. You're a taker. And why even, I know it can be difficult, but why even second guess releasing a taker?
And I'm going to give you guys a homework assignment, is to take a moment, and all those people on your phone or those conversations you've had that have challenged you with people, take a week and don't reach out to them. Matter of fact, make it 2 weeks. You don't reach out. All those people who don't reach out to you, they're poison. That's been my impression. Mm-hmm. They're not needed. Now, I'm talking about real relationships. I had to release relationships in my life, and what I started to realize is that I was the only one reaching out. I was the only one making the phone call. And when I stopped making the phone call didn't come my way. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Well, damn it, I was the only one in a relationship.
You were in a relationship by yourself.
I was in a relationship by myself, and I was trying to preserve something that didn't really exist. Nor was it nurturing my life when I really looked at it, because I wasn't getting anything back.
And it was good for a season.
It was, but I was the one paying at the table, paying at the door, buying everything. Mm-hmm. And when you start to evaluate those situations, like, wait a minute, in the last year, how many meals has this food bought me? How many times you picked the check up? How many times you picked me up from my house in your nice car? Oh, wait, you don't have one.
Oh, Lord.
Right? So those things for me became toxic, not because of the things, But because of the correlation in the relationship, there wasn't enough give and take.
A lot of taking, not a lot of giving and receiving, but that relationship served you in a season prior to this one. And so what happens is we like to romanticize relationships based on what they used to be and not assess them based on what they currently are. And that's the problem, right? So we go, oh, but this person was here for me when I went through X, Y, and Z. That is wonderful. But if they're not here for you currently and they continue to not show up and they continue to take, because some people will hold you hostage to what they did for you in that season and feel like they can milk it for the rest of your life.
That's good.
And so what downsizing does and what coming off all the extra stuff does, it really allows you to see who's genuine about the support, about the friendship, about staying in relationship for seasons to come.
That's good.
And one of the things we said in the last episode is that we had to release people, but we talked about, our driver, and we talked about our house manager and how they kind of started to act up. At that time of that recording, you really didn't know that it was going to continue in terms of the release of people. And that's a real thing. Like, that's a real part of this thing. So releasing people definitely happened. Releasing our beliefs around what people could think or say or whatever. Were there any other beliefs that you released during the last year?
I think you've covered the beliefs. What I did realize is that I also needed the tight-knit surroundings to bond my family even more. As my daughter transitions into another phase of her life, as my wife transitions, as I transition, that tight-knit space that God created for us created a different form of friendship.
In the hotel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jesus. But the truth is, I spend so much time with Reagan at the pool or outside of the room or just finding things to keep us entertained to not get us frustrated with each other. So that was amazing.
You know what really happened for me is one time I was doing an enrollment call with a potential client and it was running over, and Gerald happened to walk up. We were in the lobby of a hotel. He happened to walk up and I was like, can you take my next call? And because we had been in such close proximity, he was starting to really pay more attention to what it is I actually do in different parts of the business, and since has made the shift to come into the business more and support, which for me has been phenomenal and something that I wanted for a long time. But I think to the point of being so distracted and being so our offices in our old home were so far apart. They were the furthest rooms apart from each other, right? That it just didn't create the space to do that. And now that we're back in a big house and our offices are far apart again, we still have this a connection, and your support has been incredible. There are women who are only enrolled in Purpose to Platform because they had a conversation with you.
Get your breakthrough call with your boy. I'm gonna change your life. I promise you that. I'm a monster.
Wait, first of all.
Sorry.
This is why that we have to bring him on in doses. No, but he is phenomenal, but never thought of himself as a coach. He's a businessman. He's a negotiator. Right. He's, done big things with amazing talent. And that was awesome. But the thought of him being able to contribute some of that to what I do and really help women get to the root of what's holding them back with how to use their God-given gifts and create businesses and all this stuff. And I found that you guys would tell him more stuff than they were telling me on calls or telling one of the other coaches. As the only male right now on the team, you were getting so much deeper in terms of, the conversation and results. And so I think one of the big shifts that I had was that we can work together again intimately. So Gerald and I started a real estate and mortgage company together, 21, 22 years old, and ran that successfully. But when the recession hit, we had this idea that we could never work together again because all of our eggs would be in one basket. And so when we lost everything, a part of our pact Do you remember this? Was, okay, well, I'll go do whatever I do and you go do whatever you do so that if anything ever falls, we're not in the same industry or we're not in the same thing. And so we lived that way for like 8 years. And now there's still the real estate and the transportation company that he handles more. But just to see you back in, like, you know, see us back in business together. You know, that challenged the belief for me that we had to stay separate because we're better together.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And things are moving at such a rapid pace that I think God is fully blessing our obedience to releasing and being faithful and being good stewards, not only over our finances, but over ourselves. Because I think a part of that is being a good steward over relationships and your mind, your body, and your spirit is what is creating the opportunity for us to work together, because there's a no to everything that was in the way prior to for me, which gave a yes to me having the right spirit and energy to now be in business again with you, because there's a process. Everything that existed for me and the relationships and the people clouded the conversation about how pure and open I need to be in your space. It's a different space you created for yourself and your community and your followers and the women that love you than I was a part of in entertainment or anything else. And so the clearing and releasing of that, now I can be present and I can see the true work that's being done and the essence of it. So I'm glad to be a part.
That was beautiful.
It was humbling, and I appreciate being able to say it.
I appreciate it.
She's only going to use 3 minutes, so hopefully that part makes it.
I'm going to use all of it, and that means a lot to me. It means a lot that you get to really see the depth of what I actually do and how we really do change lives. Like, this is bigger than just a podcast or a coaching business or any of that. Like, it's truly a ministry, and I really do adore the women that I work with closely. I adore my audience in general, but you know what I mean? Like, you can tell that I be all in. I'm like all in for them.
No, and this works, you know, and a guy who came from the outside, if you will, in just my life and my journey in life, to be able to be present and completely present in a space of transformation and to be a believer in the efforts and see the reactions and the outcomes and the transformation in other people is amazing for me. And it's a genuine process. It's a genuine situation. And you're a beast.
Thank you. So there's a lot that's happened in the last 12 months. And we still do believe that downsizing was a blessing. And we're still, I kept saying.
Downsizing was life-changing.
Downsizing was life-changing. It was. It truly has brought our whole family together for the better in a lot of different ways. So I know last time when this episode came out, there were so many people who said, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing. You know, you give me the courage, or you gave me the permission to do the same thing. I would love to hear your stories. I would love to hear how it's gone for you over the last 12 months, what lessons were learned. So make sure you share with me on social media, Seek Wisdom PCW, or share with us in the Purpose Chasers community at IamAPurposeChaser.com. But the thing I hope that you take away is that, you know, in order to walk into that next season that you're truly being called into, it may take releasing. It may take simplifying. It may take pruning. It may take downsizing in order to maximize and really be able to even sustain yourself for whatever is coming in that season that you have no idea is on the horizon. So I feel like the downsize was really much more strategic than we thought it was going to be, because it was beyond money. It was a spiritual thing. It was an emotional thing. It was a relational. There were so many different realms that almost came together in order to get to where we are right now. And even though there's still boxes around, a few, and we're still getting work done and changing balusters and banisters and doing, you know, little home improvement projects for the next year, probably, the peace. This is a peace that I will not trade for the world. the peace that I see in my daughter, and as a child going to middle school who's in a season of transition and still handling it like a champ, and the peace that I see on Gerald and his lake house. He has renamed the screened-in porch his lake house, and he looks so peaceful out there, like hanging out and doing his thing. The peace that I feel in really every inch of this home, it feels like a home. And the funny thing is, and it's a home that had actually been on the market for a year. So this house originally went on the market during the genesis of our downsize. And it waited for us.
Wow.
It waited for us. And when we walked in, we looked at each other after seeing like 10 homes, making an offer on a different home, getting that offer accepted, and then walked into this space and looked around, and we literally just looked at each other like, this is it. And it's not because it was perfect, because there's work we want to do, but we felt a peace that really does transcend all understanding. And so my wish and my prayer and my hope for you is that no matter what you're going through in your season of downsize, that on the other side of that, if you stay obedient and you stay faithful and you stay committed and you manage whatever resistance comes up and you acknowledge that it's a distraction and there's greater on the other side, that should you stay committed, that you also find peace on the other side. So with that being said, I want to thank Gerald for contributing. Thank you.
Thank you. For having me.
And until next time, I want you to go live your life's purpose, find fulfillment, and earn more without ever chasing money. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.